All right, so I said I was going to rant about the two-party system and how it's failed us. So I'm going to get to that. Actually, if you listen to any of the clips I post, the YouTube clips, or listen to the podcast itself that those come from, the Peddling Fiction podcast, you'd know that there's a private Facebook group, and we got together Sunday afternoon and did a live video chat with each other, and we all got to rant about how the two-party system has failed us together. Uh, but for me, for my take personally, it really boils down to something that is talked about on the podcast regularly, and it's the fact that really with the two-party system, what we have is socialism from the Democrats and just a little bit less from the Republicans. And really, that's it. I mean, the Republicans pretend that they're not pushing for bigger government. They pretend that they have the people's interest in mind, but everything that they do points in the other direction. I mean, this year alone, we're going to increase the national deficit by at least $7 trillion. Like, where are these fiscally conservative, cutting government programs, making a smaller government, not taxing us to death or inflating our currency to the point that the entire economy is going to crash within the next 5 years? Where is all of that? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. The Democrats are at least honest about it and come right out and say, we want socialism. This is what we're going to give you. This is what we're moving towards. The Republicans just pretend that they don't do that, while every policy that they make takes us in that direction just a little bit slower than what the Democrats want. So the system has failed because it doesn't give us two rival parties. It gives us two parties that are moving in the same direction, just at different speeds. And that's why I became a libertarian. In 2007, 2008, I had started to get disenfranchised with the Republican Party, with the bailouts and everything. The fact that the wars were just never ending. Like, why did we go to Iraq? It was pointless. And then to stay there for as long as we did, and still there today, still killing innocent people for a lie. And then we had the Great Recession of 2008 and bailing out the automotive companies and all of the banks. All of the industry that had created the problem to begin with, and the government just steps in and says that, oh, well, they're too big to fail, so we've got to prop them up. No, that's not the way the market works. If they have put themselves in that position, they need to fail. They need to fall on their face and get a hard reset. And if all of us have to suffer for it, that's what we have to do. Like, that's what needs to happen so that the economy and everything about it can reset itself and start to course correct. Otherwise, you just are propagating more and more bad decisions with the hope that if it does fail, or actually with the knowledge that when it does fail, the government is just going to step in and bail you out. So the Republicans had lost me at that point. When they step in and say that we're just going to bail everybody out for their bad decisions, like, I'm out. Why would you even do that? You are forcing the taxpayers who did not make these decisions for these companies or for these banks. The government made those decisions, put them in those positions that they knew they were bad ideas, but they knew that they were protected if they made those bad decisions. And we're the ones who are on the hook for it. You and me, the taxpayers, we're the ones on the hook. And the Republicans and the Democrats both were totally on board with that. And then we turn around and we get John McCain for the presidential nominee from the Republican Party. So the Democrats have already got Barack Obama, who is the most leftist, liberal candidate that they could have picked at the time, at least. And now he seems relatively moderate, but in hindsight, at the time, he was as far out there to the left as you could go. And the Republicans counter that with John McCain. Like, they picked the most liberal Republican Republican that they could come up with. It's a joke. And at that point, if you couldn't see that it's just the same, there's two sides of the same coin. But it's still the same coin. They're going to screw you over no matter which way it falls. Just one side's going to screw you a little bit slower than the other side. It's a joke. And then to turn around in 2012 and they run Mitt Romney. The Republican Party lost me a long time ago. And how they've managed to keep the wool pulled over most of their support base's eyes is insane. And the Democrats, oh my gosh, that's even worse. Like, I really want to support and vote for a Democratic candidate. But every single time they have an opportunity to put anybody that has just the most minimal shred of common sense up there, Tulsi Gabbard would have been a beautiful nomination this year. You've got the country in the condition that it's in, even before COVID. It was just ridiculous. And they had somebody that was anti-war, that was mostly moderate, that could have actually rallied a decent amount of support from the other side to get, some bipartisan support for a presidential nominee and break this whole us versus them crap. And they just railroaded her straight out. I mean, it was a full-on hit. And it's just a joke. The whole system has become a joke. And what's really scary is that neither side really sees it. There's a very small percentage somewhere in the middle. If the Libertarian candidate could get 5% of the popular vote, that would put them on the ballot without having to fight for ballot access in 2024. But third parties have to fight tooth and nail for ballot access just to get an opportunity to maybe get 2% of the vote in this corrupt, just totally rigged system where you either get it's like the Futurama election episode where it's the clone, and one of the clone is under a red banner and the other clone is under a blue banner, and they both say the exact same thing without saying the exact same thing. And that's what we've got. That is the two-party system. It's a freaking Futurama episode. And nobody can pull their heads out of their ass for long enough to see that we are getting screwed from both sides every single election. I don't know what else to say. I mean, wake up, people. It's time to get rid of this system and start over again with something else. This is failing. And what's really, really sad is it's going to fail hard before anybody really sees it. And there's a bunch of us that have been saying it. And we'll continue to say it because it's coming. And now I sound like some conspiracy theory nut job. Maybe I am. Good luck, everybody. Hope 2020 ends better than what it started.